I'ma go. One of the greatest of all time. I'ma go. You already know that. One of the greatest of all time. I'ma go.
God damn. Vampires, what's good? This is episode 3 of the podcast, and we're gonna do something a little different here. I planned on doing reaction videos, right? So, the perfect reaction was this right here. Twisted Insane put out a song called Endgame 10 hours ago, which by the time you're seeing this, it'll be over 24 hours. But this song just came out, right? And I was stunned, because of the topic, And as an artist, it's something that we can all relate to on some kind of level. But we're also getting it from a perspective at his level, you know what I mean? Which is wild, because all right, look, we can all as artists feel certain things, such as, when you're doing this for so long, there comes a point in time where it's all right, we're aiming for here, and how come I've been doing this for so long and I've only moved maybe just a little bit, or maybe not at all, you know what I mean? It can be soul crushing sometimes, and we put all this effort and energy and our hearts into this shit, and it's damn. Sometimes there's a couple hundred people at these venues. Sometimes there's 20 or 30, and that it sucks sometimes, and then, we try to cover up that feeling okay, it's a more intimate experience, which I loved that part of that song because of how real that is, We want a full house, you know what I mean? That's what we want, but sometimes we don't always get what we want. And even at his level, he's telling you sometimes we just don't get what we want, and it sucks, you know what I mean? And after doing this for so long, it's damn, you get these feelings, and you're do I even continue? What am I doing this for? You know what I mean? And these are feelings that I've felt as an artist. And like I said, I'm not up here, you know what I mean? I'm not where he's at. I'm not exactly down here either, but I'm still on my journey, And even I had, these feelings I'm coming out of a 6-year hiatus, you know what I'm saying? And I was going through a lot, had a lot of ups and downs, and during that period, I felt that real strong, should I even continue doing this? Why am I doing this? You know what I mean? What's the point? I got all these people that say they support me, but where are they? You know what I mean? And I learned a lot. I eventually reached a point to where, it's not the people we know personally that's gonna support us the way we would like. It's the people that our music touches, that the people that we don't know are the people that's gonna carry it and elevate it. And as you can see with what Twisted Insane built over time, and I've seen this from the outside looking in for almost 20 years, you know what I mean? I've been connected to this guy since the MySpace days. You know, I heard Spider in the Night, and I was hooked. You know what I mean? And I've been on it, listening and listening and listening. You know, and he's an artist that I fuck with heavy. You know, and I've, you know, fast forward a couple years later, and we shared a good experience. You know, we were able to meet Twisted Insane in person. BMD was on the last leg of, well, we did a couple shows of the last leg of the Mafia 6's 10 Commandments tour with Whitney Payton and Twisted Insane. You know, we did McFadden's down in Nashville. That was a wild experience. If you, side note here, if you watch the first episode of the podcast, me and Stats talk about, you know, a certain scenario that happened down there. It's kind of funny. But, yeah, we did that show, and we came back to PA, and we did a couple other ones, and had the homie, you know, at an after party and shit, and, you know, we had a couple moments where we got to chill and, you know, talk and vibe a little bit, you know. He's a real motherfucker, man, you know, and this song, among many other ones, will tell you that. This man is who he is on and off of the mic. And that's how every artist needs to be. Straight up. You know, that's the blueprint right there. Music is a reflection of self. If you can't put your heart and your emotions into your music, why are you making music? You know what I mean? This song is a perfect example of humanity from his level. You know, he built all this from the ground up, independently. You know, Tech Nine was able to do it. Tom McDonald was able to do it. A lot of other artists out there, you know, were able to do it. But it's a really hard thing to do. And this man did it on his own. You know what I mean? He built Brain Sick Music on his own. You know, ground up. And acquired over time a very loyal and faithful fan base. We know them today as the Brainiacs, you know. Brain. The Brain is a strong army. There's millions of them out there, and even still, sometimes there's a show where there's only a couple people, you know what I mean? And it sucks. And not only is he describing these things, but it's also, at least what I took from it, was a love letter to those that do support him. Like, yo, like, well, he said it at the end. He was thanking everybody, you know, from the bottom of his heart, which, you know, that shows you straight up how much this shit means to him. You know what I mean? And that's the passion that every artist doing music needs to have, point blank, period. Because if you're not passionate about this shit, you shouldn't be doing it, period. You know what I mean? A lot of this next generation artists, you know, they're in it because they want to be famous, they want to be rich, they want this and that and all the materialistic bullshit. And that's not what this is about, man, you know? Like, when you reach those levels, that's a privilege. But that's not why artists like him and artists like me, and, you know, that's not why we do this. You know, we do this because this is what we do. It's who we are. It's you know. And after I listened to this song, like, all right, I got the notification for it, and I listened to it, and immediately after it was over, I was about to make a post, and I was like, nah, fuck that. I'm gonna hit him directly and let him know how it made me feel from the bottom of my heart. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what I did, you know. I'm not gonna share that with y'all because that was strictly for him. But to summarize it, you know, I let him know that, you know, in certain perspectives, I was able to relate to it, you know, because, you know, every artist should be able to feel that at one point or another. You know, there's points in time where it's, you kind of want to give up, you know. It's like, why am I doing this? That is the part that really resonated with me, you know what I mean? Because, like, like I said, I don't know it from his perspective, but from my perspective, I shared a similar feeling, and the shit hit, you know? This music world's tough, straight up, you know what I mean? But, you know, this is a passion. This is something we all share as artists, you know. This is what we love, it's what we do, it's who we are. And if you don't have that passion, stop flooding the scene with your bullshit. You know what I mean? Because, like, you know, music is a reflection of self. It is what it is, you know. If you haven't heard of Twisted Insane, I highly encourage that you check this man out. His whole discography is fire. This man is a true artist. You know, he's not just a chopper. This man can touch any topic. He's very versatile. He can hit it any which way you want him to hit it. You know what I mean? Like, he got songs for everybody, really, you know. He got killer shit, he got deep shit, he got hood shit, he got club shit. He's all over the spectrum with it, you know. And although his main style focuses on the chopping, this man can do a lot more than that, and he shows you that, you know what I mean, if you really dive into his albums, you know. That being said, man, go to this man's YouTube. Show him love, you know what I mean? Go to his Spotify, wherever you can pick up his music. Show him love. Send him comments. Let him know how this song makes you feel, you know what I mean? And yeah, man, stay in tune. Much love to all the brainiacs out there. Much love to all the vampires. And stay tuned for the next episode of the podcast. We out here.
Yo, my shit is raw, it's real raw, real talk. You see, when I step, it's a real walk. Except I got a pimp strut to it. You see, I gotta lean a little bit when I do it. I keep it old school, at the same time a fresh mind, you old news. How you live in the real world without the road rules? MTV used to play music, now these quote reality shows got you tuned in. We back.